Hello everyone and welcome back. So now we're going to discuss text strings and how to fix the various problems that we're going to run into. And the first thing is I wanna plug in some textures, and if we go and import an image file, I'm gonna import the bricks. And to save us some time, I'm going to use triplanar. The triplanar to assign this texture. So I'm going to plug this node in as the input, and I'm going to assign it here. And if we hit render, we should see some textures. So this is going to use the geometry normals and apply the textures that we want. We can rotate it. Something like that. And in my case, in the main scene, this is what I was using. I didn't have any UVs, and I was using the triplanar node to assign textures, and this works great if you have rocks or anything like that, where you don't have to respect the UVs, which we're gonna talk about. But let's say this is our texture, we're happy with everything, and this is the result that we've got. Now, if we use the rest space to make sure that this sticks, so by changing this to rest, and let's hit render again, we're going to see that we're getting distortion, and that's because we're distorting the geometry. So our pref attribute, and let me draw this. So let's say we have a grid like this, and we have a point position. That point has an attribute stored to it. The attribute in this case maps to this position. It represents the actual value of that position. If we move it, the information of this attribute is going to be in a different space. It's moved somewhere else. So that is going to go into the triplanar node and also result in something distorted, because we're distorting the actual data. In Arnold or any render, when you take a mesh and displace it, let's say this is the grid and these are the points. Whatever information you stored on the points, once you displace it, that information is not going to change, it's going to move. So let's say this point is going to be here, it's going to move here. The value, if we have a color, for example, that is red, when we move the point, the color will be the same. We're not going to get the color of a different point. It's going to be the same. So that's why the rest attribute is getting distorted. And when I change it to world space, it's going to use whatever the final position of the points is. Now, with all the renders, the displacement always happens first. And the reason for that is because the engine will store the geometry in memory, modify it, and then store the new geometry in memory. Only the new one. We're not going to have access to the old one. So this means that we have to fix our attribute. And with the triplanar, when we hit render, because it uses 3D space, the 3D position, to generate its data, we can apply or negate the displacement information. So here, this is what we're plugging into the displacement. I'm gonna negate this. So if we take this information and negate it and apply it as an offset to this world position, it's gonna give us the result that we want. So let's put down a negate node. To inverse the result of our displacement, and we're going to use this value, and then we're going to apply it to the offset here. And if we hit render, it's going to fix the displacement on the mesh. So it's not identical, it's not going to be 100%. And if we use the right masks, which I am doing here, so if we mask the attributes correctly and only apply this fix to the areas that's been displaced, we should be able to get a decent result, and this is going to stick to the mesh. So if I hit play, and go through, it's going to stick to the mesh and it's not going to have any distortion. So this is the easiest workaround to get the texture applied to the geometry, or to get some textures applied to the geometry in our context and use it. Now, with destruction, whenever you're building something, most of the time you're going to be able to get away with triplaners. But I'm going to show in the next video, we're going to discuss something that works with UVs and works with all engines and what the limitations are and how we get around them. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.